Hey everyone, so it's been a while since I've seen you, but I wanted to just start this video off by talking about Black Lives Matter. This is just a reminder to my non-Black viewers like myself that that work is not over. Allyship is a lifelong commitment. It is something that you have to continually be working at. I made a community post talking about this where I linked a whole bunch of resources, and those resources are going to be in the description of this video. I want to make sure that everybody is keeping this energy up in their daily lives by educating themselves, by advocating, by educating others in your life who need education. And so the resources in the description, which have been updated with more articles and more videos, hopefully will help you do that if you need some places to start. In terms of readings, I highly recommend reading Your Silence Will Not Protect You. Like I said, the link is going to be in the description. That is a beautiful article, and also looking into Kimberly Crenshaw's theory of intersectionality. If you haven't educated yourself on that, that could be a wonderful place to start. Education is power. It is so important that we're educating ourselves and continually interrogating our biases and doing whatever we can to be allies. And also to my Black subscribers, also voice my support for you, and my heart is with you guys. All the information for donation, for education, videos by Black creators, they're going to be in the description. But for now, I hope you guys enjoyed this writing vlog. I'm just going to jump right into it. I will see you guys next week. So it has been some time since I last filmed a writing vlog. This wind chime's pretty loud, so hopefully you can hear me. I haven't been having the best month ever. I've had a lot of things going on. My mental health has been a little bit poor this last month. I haven't really been doing any writing at all. It is really hot today. As you can see, I am outside. I'm in my backyard and I'm gonna do some writing. I just haven't been doing drafting in general, which has also contributed to me not feeling too hot. I have my computer, but this is a computer I sent in to get serviced. They didn't fix the problem, and so they're finally sending me a replacement. So this computer doesn't have all my software on it. I think I'm just gonna get Word Online if I can connect my data for a second, but I'm gonna just work on feeding habits. I've been really struggling with a particular chapter in that book. It was the chapter that was chapter 2, and then I revised it, so now it is chapter 3. And it is just giving me a really hard time. I just have to continue drafting that. I did get an idea for a scene, thankfully. I'm not really feeling it, but I just need to push through. It's always really hard at around the 15,000 word mark for me, and I'm just about exactly at the 15,000 word mark, and I have been really stuck since I finished my classes in university, which was April 15th or so, and now it is June 10th, so it's almost been 2 months where I haven't written anything new, so I will be working on that. So good news is my computer somehow connects to the internet to my house. I haven't used this computer since I got it back just because I don't have my software on here, and I don't feel like taking the time to install my software when I have to reinstall. I just have too much software. I couldn't be bothered. So I'm just using my other computer, but I'm using this one because my old computer does not have a battery life. Word Online seems to be working perfectly well, except for the fact that Dropbox keeps telling me I only have 146.23 megabytes left in my Dropbox, and I wish it would go away, but it won't. But that's okay. Bad news is I haven't opened this document in 4 days, so I literally have no idea what's going on. It's just a thing where I need to calculate the vibes of the scene and then draft from there. But I have strawberries that are kind of unpleasantly warm now. When I say I haven't written anything new, that's not true, because I wrote all of chapter 2 after April 15th, and I finished that a few weeks ago actually. Chapter 3, what I mean is I haven't progressed in the actual story, because chapter 3 was the old chapter 2, and so I literally have not moved from the same scene in 2 months. And I'm really tired of it. So I'm hoping I can move out of this setting. This notification won't go away. It's just this bar on the bottom that's really annoying. I think it's about 12:45 p.m. I usually work out at like 2:30, so I have until 2:30. I really need to get my foot in this scene right now, so I think I'm just gonna really take my time. Hi everyone, so it's the next day. I wanted to do an update. I just spent my entire morning watching about like 4 episodes of Hannibal. It was a very productive way to spend my morning. But yesterday, I, funnily enough, stopped writing outside. A, because it was really hot and I think I didn't want my computer to overheat, and B, because Sarah and I wanted to start watching Hannibal, and now we're almost done season 1. That's what I did yesterday. While I was outside, I broke through my scene. I am feeling very comfortable in it now. I was feeling strange about it because it kind of came out of nowhere, and because I had been struggling to draft anything over the last few days, and so, or actually weeks, almost months actually, like 2 months to continue this chapter, but I figured it out. And now I'm feeling a lot more comfortable in the atmosphere of the scene. And I was telling Sarah yesterday, like, you don't know how much writing one sentence you like can really motivate you to continue writing. Sometimes it's just as little as, hey, I really like that sentence I wrote and I'm proud of that, and now I'm going to continue drafting. But it's about 12:30 in the afternoon. I am going to go make some green tea and I'm going to draft some feeding habits and hopefully finish this freaking chapter. That would be amazing if I could finish that today. Hey everybody, why don't I look dazzling? It is like, I think 2:45 in the morning. I have been in a state of lucid consciousness since like 11:30 when I tried to go to bed. And so I finally just got up. I'm so annoyed because I just want to go to bed. It's probably my fault. I drank some coffee like at like 9, and usually caffeine doesn't affect me, but also I just watched like 15 episodes of a gruesome crime show, so that probably wasn't a very good combination with the caffeine. On their own, caffeine and crime shows don't usually keep me up at night, but I think I have just been, like, my brain has just been working. I've been thinking of what to do because I kind of just want to go to bed. I think I'm going to try to draft on my phone, and just thinking about it makes me bored and want to go to bed. Since we're up talking about caffeine and crime shows, I really recommend Hannibal. It's like definitely a new favorite. My favorite shows are crime shows. I'm a big true crime junkie. My favorite shows are Bates Motel and Criminal Minds, and this show is both of those things. I think it's like the chilling, kind of cool, cinematic style of Bates Motel with like a more constant crime element, like in Criminal Minds. I probably should not have mixed that and caffeine because my brain was just thinking about a lot of things, and has been doing so for the last few hours. So now, since I can't sleep, I'm going to use my writing to bore myself to sleep, which I do quite frequently. Today was a really good writing day. On another note, I wrote about 2,000 words. I haven't progressed on the timeline yet. You know, if you guys watched the last video, you would have seen, essentially, I ended up moving my old chapter 2 to chapter 3, and so I haven't moved on the timeline in about 2 months, which is a bit crazy to me. And I drafted a lot today. I drafted a scene in between what is now the new chapter 2 and the old chapter 2, so chapter 3. I drafted a new scene of chapter 3 and I really liked it, and so I thought I'd be able to progress on the timeline, but I've yet to do it. I will let you know when I progress on the timeline because that's going to be really exciting. I've been stuck in the exact same position for so long, but drafting something new and substantial was quite nice. But tomorrow I'm hoping that I can also have a pretty good writing day. But yeah, I'm feeling the zest of writing right now. Pretty hyped about it. Hello, good morning. It is, I don't know when. So yesterday was a bit of a writing day for me. It was also a really big stay in bed and watch Hannibal all day. I spent all of my morning binge watching that show, and then I wrote for a little bit, and then I binge watched more of the show, and then I went back to writing. And what I'm saying is I was able to make substantial progress, which was pretty nice. Really, I did the heavy lifting the day before, but yesterday I did a bit more lifting with edging me past where I've been stuck on the timeline for 2 months. I have actually yet to push past that part. I ended up writing a scene yesterday in between a scene that I just wanted to add something to chapter 3, and what I need to do now is essentially continue the book. However, at the last moment, I was really excited because I was really close to progressing on the timeline, but at the last moment I kind of second guessed what I should do, because I'm not sure I need a scene in chapter 3. I'm not sure I need, if you watch my other writing vlogs, I talk about this scene in a convenience store. I think it's in, not the writing vlog I just posted, the one before that. And so I don't really think I need that scene anymore, but it kind of hurts because I like that scene. I think I am going to try to weigh the pros and cons of just cutting it off at it's essentially an emotional high point, because we follow Loneliness. He sort of does this in the chapter, and then the chapter sort of ends kind of like a lower point. I wonder if I should just end it so it kind of ends on like the top of the slope or slightly in the decline. I wonder if that would be more interesting than sort of ending the tension. But I do have to weigh the pros and cons. Pro is this chapter is very long. My last chapter was the longest chapter I've written in years, and this chapter is even longer than that one. This one is about 7,100 words, which is a lot. If I cut out the scene at the convenience store, it is just under 5,000 words, which is still a very long chapter for me. I don't usually write very long chapters anymore. Honestly, the part that has given me the most problems is the scene that happens after the scene in the convenience store. And since it has been so hard to progress, I have a feeling the scene doesn't want to be there. So I might just have to cut out this convenience store bit along with the scene after, which is in the parking lot. I kind of got stuck when I added that scene, and so I kind of want to move past this part on the timeline, and I'm hoping that that will be possible when I go back downstairs. It's early. I just watched many more episodes of Hannibal, but it's not as late as it was yesterday, so I do have my morning ahead of me. It's probably just before 11 o'clock in the morning, and I will go and try to work on that, create sort of a productivity boost in the morning. I'm finding I really like that. I said that I would be doing a 5,000 word week goal in my last writing vlog, and I literally did not start that at all. I made that goal right before the worst month of my life. It was very stressful. Everything sort of sucked, and so I didn't bother trying to write on top of that or hit a word goal. But I wonder if I can start doing that at some point. But I think it is funny because I did predict that I wouldn't stick to it. But at this point I'd like to, so I will consider doing that goal again. Yesterday I probably wrote about 1,000 words, so in the last 2 days I've probably written about 3,000 words, which is quite good progress since I literally haven't written in so long. But yeah, I'm really happy that I'm writing again. Things have been really heavy, so it's nice to feel like I have my coping mechanism back. I think just staying stuck here is not going to do anything for me. So if whatever solution I come up with for this scene doesn't work out, I'm just going to move on the timeline anyway, just because I can't be stuck for another 2 months in this scene. I don't like writing non-linearly. I think it's because I'm a pantser, and so because for the fostered books I don't really do multiple drafts. I don't really draft multiple drafts for books because I've never wanted to publish really any of my books. I only did that for I'm Disappointed. That book got like 10 drafts, and that's because I was trying to publish it. But every other book I've written, I've never really done multiple drafts. They're just first drafts. I did a line edit on Mothwork, so I can go back and revise. And so I guess because I've been in this sort of state of not publishing or not desiring to publish, I have never thought of it as a possibility that, yeah, you can just come back after you finish the book and do like a developmental edit, for example. I might start implementing that if more problems like this arise in the future and I don't want to get stuck for too long. But that's my update for this morning. I just want to add, last night I
was doing some drafting, but I just decided to take a little bit of a break because I was feeling a little anxious yesterday, and so it was just better for me to take a small break. And in that time, I did a portrait of Will Graham from Hannibal because I love Hugh Dancy, guys. Did you not see my other vlog where I was watching Ella Enchanted? I love Hugh Dancy, so I'll put that on the screen if you want to see it, but that was what I was doing, and it was really good just because you guys saw the clip where I couldn't sleep. If you were wondering the effectiveness of what I did with the writing, I didn't actually end up drafting anything after I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about it though, and that got me a bit tired, but I had drafted something the night before which really helped me when I was writing yesterday. I was able to pretty easily fall asleep after drawing last night, so that was nice. So maybe I will draw more. I did a few days ago draw portraits of Lonan and Eliza. The one that I drew of Lonan wasn't actually supposed to be him, so it kind of looks more like my sister's character all over. But I will pop up the one of Eliza because it's the first drawing I've ever done of her, and I think it is fairly accurate. Hi everybody, so I wanted to do an update on how writing has been going. I had a pretty good writing day yesterday. I mean, pretty good as in like I wrote a lot. I felt like crap the entire time I was writing. I was not feeling it. It's really difficult dealing with crippling self-doubt. But I did write about over 1,000 words yesterday, which was quite nice. I finally progressed on the timeline, which is quite nice. The chapter that I'm writing, I was kind of gonna give up on it very early on because it's kind of difficult the way I was creating the timeline, but I think I've got it, so I just really have to continue it at this point, and hopefully I can finish Lonan's point of view soon because we're just about the end, and then I'll jump into Harrison's head, which is kind of exciting. Hi everybody, so I'm back for another update. Yesterday you guys would have seen me writing outside, and that was actually quite lovely. I was just listening to a few songs by Jeff Buckley, and I was just chilling out in the sun. It was actually really nice to sort of feel the natural atmosphere. It really helped with the scene that I was writing, which takes place outdoors. But it is about the afternoon. It's like early 1 o'clock or so. I have been writing for a few hours at this point. Of course, I started my day off with a daily dose of Hannibal, which really helps. That show's very well written, so it is wonderful inspiration. Every day I've just been sort of doing that, and then at about 11 o'clock till when I work out at about 2:30, I write. So right now it's about 1:30, and I have written over 1,000 words. I've progressed way far into my scene. It took me in a direction I was not expecting at all, which is quite nice. I love being surprised by my own work. I feel like I get the best work when it's unplanned and very in the moment, because even as a pantser, you'll come up with ideas as you go, because that's just kind of intrinsic to being a human being. You come up with things as you go, and even though I really do pants my work, I find in the moments of genuine unknowing of what I'm writing, that's when I get the most out of my prose. I get the most out of the story. I get my favorite work when I write completely unknowing what is happening. I've probably written about 1,000 words at this point, probably a little bit over that. I just have this tail end of the scene. I just added a double space, so I just need to finish the rest of it, and then this chapter will be done. And I'm almost done Lonen's point of view, which is quite exciting, even though I really liked being in his head. The last scene he is going through, I'm just resting my hand because my hand hurts, so I've changed my position, but he is going through quite a lot right now. It's quite severe, and he's currently having his hair cut off against his will. And we all know Lonen's identity is his hair. So I think he is in a very interesting position right now. But I love the tension. I love everything that the scene is giving me. Chapter's quite long already. It's 5,500 words, and I've only written it in like the last 3 days, which is insane, and I really appreciate it. I love that I'm back to writing. Hey everyone, so it is a few hours later and I have done my workout. I finished the scene. It was actually not the scene I intended to write, but it was the scene that I ended up writing. I wasn't intending on ending the chapter on backstory, but it actually ended up working out quite well. Now I'm working on chapter 5, and the chapter is called Holy Obedience, which is a Christian term in regards to the virtues, I think. But there was a lot of religion in the last chapter, which I really enjoyed writing. I think delving into the theology of like your characters, what theology they follow, are they theists, are they atheists, is very interesting. It's very good characterization, I think. And I always believed Lonen to be a non-believer, or maybe have a similar relationship to religion like I do. It's not unbelieving, but it's not in fully invested in the same way. Like that's, I guess, typical of a believer. I always describe my faith as a Catholic atheist, which makes no sense, but that's the best way I can describe it. But as somebody who grew up in the Christian faith, it's been a lot of fun to fiddle with religion in my book, and also to see the more nuanced, developed side of Lonen's relationship with religion, rather than just his supposed pure hatred for it. And so I've been enjoying that. And the last chapter was called, I'm not going to say it right, so I'm going to put it up here. It's a French term for a death blow, essentially. The last blow, like almost like a mercy killing. I definitely think that motif was peppered quite well throughout the chapter, and I learned a lot about Lonen in this last chapter. I wrote it in just a few days. I think I started it on Friday night and I finished it today, which is Tuesday. So that's like the fastest I've written a chapter, and it's over 6,000 words long, which also makes it one of the longest chapters I've ever written. The last few chapters of Feeding Habits have actually been quite long in general, which is kind of bizarre. I don't really write very long chapters. They usually cap out at about 4,500 words, but the last two have been about 6,000 words, which is kind of insane. Lonen's point of view has just hit 21,000 words. Just for some context, Mothwork, each point of view was about 15,000 words, so this is quite much more expanded. But I learned a lot about him, and I feel very close to him in ways that I haven't understood in the past. Chapter 1 is Bad Vegetarian, Chapter 2 is Wicked Child, Chapter 3 is Witness State, and Chapter 4 is, I'm gonna attempt Coup de Grace? I'm Canadian, you'd think I would know. And then Chapter 5 is Holy Obedience. And so Chapter 4, we really get to see Lonen sort of exposed. It's written very non-linearly. It's not written in the typical fashion a chapter would be. Things that happened in the past are written in the present, stuff like that. A bit non-conventional, but I have been enjoying it so much, the process, and I really feel like I finally learned a lot about Lonen. I learned sort of the centrality of his darkness, like the darkest part of him. I have finally been able to figure out what exactly that was. It's been really cathartic drafting the last few chapters, actually. Just the last few days in general has been really cathartic in terms of writing. There is this catharsis, but there's also crippling self-doubt that does not go away. I think drafting quickly, like in succession, because I have finished or started 3 chapters in just like the last 2 weeks, which is absolutely phenomenal for me. I don't usually write that at that volume. I have really been able to see how much self-doubt and imposter syndrome affects my writing. And it's not even that I am insecure about my work. It's that I genuinely believe it is bad until I read it like the day after, or until I send it to Sarah and she's like, your prose is really tight, the language here is great, like on sentences that I hated. And it's not that I need validation, it's just kind of an interesting phenomenon to me, because I genuinely believe that I'm writing garbage while I'm writing it, and it's only until I come back that I realize that's not really true. This chapter was amazing in terms of like Lonan's sort of his core, like I was saying, the central, where his central darkness sort of expels from. Figured it out. It definitely has to do with children. I didn't realize how fixated he was on like childhood and on protecting children, and it makes sense, obviously. I think all my characters like kids, but I was not expecting that with Lonan, probably because we're so similar. Because I thought we were so similar, I thought we'd maybe have the same outlook on children, but I never realized how much he probably longs for a child of his own. And it was very much standing in front of me, the answer, because this book is very much central on children. He genuinely believes that children are kind of inherently wicked, not because he wants to believe that, and I think that's actually a fear of his. Like, he genuinely fears that this is true, that children are wicked, because he believes that children that are wicked are essentially the stems of a wicked adult. And I think that says a lot about him. So I've learned a lot about him just in drafting much faster than I usually have, and it's been really difficult. It was grueling the first few days, like to get through it, to problem solve, and to just get past the part that was making my life horrible. And even now, like when I want to give up, like this morning, I didn't really feel like writing all that much. I wanted to, I just didn't know what to do, and so I was struggling with that. But I figured out that I just had to keep doing it, and sometimes I can't do that. Sometimes I can't just decide to do it and do it. Sometimes I genuinely need to give myself some time. But I wrote some of my favorite dialogue I've ever written. I wrote this very tense scene between Lonan and Eliza that I was not expecting. I was kind of dreading writing it because I had no idea where it was going to go, but it took me to a space that I really, really like. And I'm really into the tension in this chapter, chapter 4. I think it's probably one of the strongest things I've written, at least thematically speaking. But yeah, I have been having so much fun, and all I want to do is write. It's really difficult to be in a position where like these things flip-flop severely, because there's always this fear that it will kind of revert, stop being on a roll. Like, I wrote probably 10,000 words, maybe a little less than 10,000 words the last few weeks. It's probably amounted to about 5,000 words, but I've cut out so many words, so I've definitely written or rewritten like about 10k this last week and a half or 2 weeks. And so to me, it feels temporary, my successes. I'm kind of nervous about what will occur when I don't want to set myself up for failure, but like if I feel like this on a roll kind of moment stops existing, that kind of scares me a little bit. And I want to make a video about this, feeling like everything you write sucks. And it's not even insecurity, guys. It's not insecurity, because I think I'm a boss-ass writer. Like, I do think I'm really fucking good at writing. I'm not gonna lie. I do think I'm a good writer. I'm really proud of where I am as a writer. I just sometimes run into bouts where I genuinely believe, like, it's literally written into my psyche that what I'm writing is not good. That everything that I've put on the page is bad. And I'm really trying to work on it, because it's really difficult to deal with. This morning I was writing and I was just repeating Hallelujah, the Rufus Wainwright version, and it was so perfect. I've also been listening to this Jeff Buckley song. I forgot, I'll put it here, but it's really good. It's very angelic, and it's definitely the complete vibes of this chapter. So it's been wonderful to find content that sort of matches what I'm writing, which is also why I really like Hannibal, because Lonan has sort of similar mannerisms and a way of speaking as the main character, Will Graham, and so it's really good for his dialogue, also his interactions with other people. So being immersed in media that is relevant to what I'm writing is really good, and I'm really enjoying it, especially since that show very much talks about manipulation and gaslighting, and that's so central to Lonan's relationship with Eliza. I have personal experience with that too, and so sort of feeding into what I know and what I'm watching into what I'm writing has been really fun. That's the update for now. Hi everybody, so it is a few hours later and I'm back to do another update. So I finished my scene. I was actually not feeling too hot about it while I was writing, but I am trying to engage with what I was talking about earlier and understand it's okay. It's probably not as bad as I think, and it's probably conveying exactly what I want, so don't fret. I can fix it later, because I have the ability to if I want to, because I'm a good writer. I checked, and I've written over 3,000 words today, just a bit over 3,000, which is insane. Especially since the last few days, I have written at least 1,000 words a day, if not closer to 2,000. So it is the next day. I was a bit cut off in my last update, so I'm just gonna update you again on everything that's been going on. So it's about actually like the same time I filmed my last speaking update. Today has not been as productive as yesterday, but that's okay. I was really happy with what I wrote yesterday. I wrote just about at the end of the day about 3,500 words. It was just a bit over 3,500 words, which I haven't had a writing day that good in years. Literally, I haven't written that much. I think maybe maximum I've written maybe 3,000 words, and even that's kind of cutting it. 3,500 words is kind of insane. I wrote so much yesterday. I wrote the end of a chapter, and then I started an entire new chapter, and I wrote the majority of it yesterday, which was quite insane. I don't really write that much. I'm not the kind of writer who writes in volume. Like, a good writing day for me is usually about 1,000 words. When I hit 1K, I feel pretty good. A standard writing day, maybe like 700 words or so, but I have been writing every single day since Friday. So it's taken me 5 days to write 7,000 words, and by now I just added on to that, so it's probably closer to 10,000. I really do not usually write this much. By the way, I feel like I should give a disclaimer. If you can see a giant bump on my forehead, ignore it. Bugs like me. Every single year for the last 3 years, I've gotten an insect bite on the exact same part of my forehead, and I usually break out into very big hives when I get bitten by an insect. So that's why you might see a giant bump on my forehead. It's June, everybody. Literal insane writing mojo. I got to writing pretty early today, but it was actually quite a slow day. Sarah and I only watched one episode of Hannibal. I actually woke up, I've been waking up really early. I have a really difficult time usually sleeping and a really difficult time waking up. I remember when I was in school, it would be a miracle if I woke up at 10:30 in the morning. And to some of you, that might seem incredibly early, but I've always really enjoyed my mornings. I've never been a morning person, but I love my mornings. So I need at least from 10 o'clock onward, like, to enjoy my mornings, or 10:30 onward, essentially. 11 o'clock doesn't really seem like the morning anymore. I like to have some time in the morning because it's my favorite part of the day, but I've always really struggled with waking up. But since I came home, I think I was able to sort of sleep off the exhaustion of being a first-year university student. I have gotten into a very good sleep schedule, and I'm really proud of myself. I wake up without an alarm at around 8:30 every single morning. I actually go to bed at the similar time that I was going to bed at university. I wasn't going to bed late. I would go to bed at about from 11:30 to 1 o'clock in the morning, and that's the same. And I still wake up consistently every single day, which is really nice. But today, Sarah and I woke up a bit earlier. Yeah, probably at around like 8 o'clock I was awake, and I really woke up at around 8:15. And so we watched an episode, and that's 45 minutes. So it took us to about 9 o'clock. So I was downstairs by 9 in the morning writing. It is really loud. First of all, my family's doing construction, and everybody is literally doing lawn work right now, apparently. Sorry about that if you can hear any of it. I was down to writing quite early in the morning. I reread my scene out loud. This is something I don't really talk about much on here because I kind of forgot it was a part of my process because for a while there I wasn't really writing all that much. But a huge part of my process is I like to narrate my work out loud. It's very helpful for me. Either I will narrate it myself, or I will get, like, Word has an automated text-to-speech option which you can use, and so I will often use the robot, or I will say myself. Today was the first time I'd done that in a while for like a longer chunk of text, but I really wanted to see how my dialogue, how the emotions would come across, like coming from an actual voice. And so that's why I read it today. And it was a bit of a slower day, slower than I anticipated. I guess yesterday was incredibly productive. I've moved here and moved the camera closer to me, so hopefully you can hear this. I wrote yesterday. By the time I went to work out at about 2:30, I had already written about 3,000 words. Today, by the time it was 2:30, I had written about 738 words, so you can see the difference. So it was going a bit slow. It's actually a scene that I've had in my mind for a long time, which I've realized the longer a scene is in my head, the more I'm probably gonna struggle writing it. I don't do well with the, like, anticipatory writing. Like, some people, like, have scenes that they've been really wanting to write, and they can't wait to write them, and I feel the same way too. I'm really excited to write them, but when push comes to shove, when I actually get to the part where I need to write them, I don't enjoy it nearly as much as when I write, like, completely from the seat of my pants. I've had this idea for quite some time, so it was kind of difficult to write, but I did finish it, and so I don't really know how much I've written for the day, probably a bit over 1,000 words, maybe closer to 1,500, but I'm going to continue writing. I literally have one more scene to write in Lonan's head,
and I don't think it's going to be very long, and then I'm going to leave his head. And I'm going to miss him. This project came at a time where I was really struggling with writing. I was really struggling a bit with my mental health at that point, and this project really helped me understand a lot about myself, about my relationships, about manipulation, about things that have happened to me in the past, and sort of how to deal with them in the future, because Lonan's sort of going through the same thing. And so I feel really close to him. I remember feeling this close to him the first time I wrote in his head, which makes sense because it was the first time I'd ever written in his point of view. It's a third person narrator, but limited to him until we move into Harrison's point of view. And so that was the first time I'd ever written with him. And so I had that same feeling this time around when I was writing with him, and it was phenomenal. I feel like I know him so much better, and it's really exciting to feel that way about a character who, he's my favorite character. If you didn't know, he and I are very entwined psychologically. I have talked about this, I think, before on my blog, about us being actually linked, like in my mental health. So he's helped me a lot in my physical life as well as obviously my writing life. And so to feel even closer to him is kind of a phenomenon to me, because I didn't think that it would be possible to get closer to him, but I feel like I really know him. I'm really happy that I figured out the crux of who he is, essentially, and I've learned, the things that sort of scare him, and learning his fears have been really helpful. And I think we were both going through similar things at the same time, different extremes, but similar things despite that. It's really nice to have a character who, he's not a self-insert. He's not really like a projection of myself. It just so happened that we were going through similar things at the same time, but it's really nice to have a character that almost gets you, especially since Lonan isn't just a part of my fictional life. He's a part of like my psychiatric life as well. I have really been enjoying writing Feeding Habits. I got kind of tired last night, I'm not gonna lie. I was quite fatigued, but I wanted to keep going, and this is kind of a problem I have. I have a real fear of not being able to write like the next day, or slowing down, and then the mojo that I've had, like the absolute best writing days I've had in the last 5 days, would kind of just go away, and that sort of scared me. So to combat that, I've sort of every single day been forcing myself to write. I know at one point I'm going to want to take a break, because I do want to work on the Feeding Habits book cover, so I'm going to take a break from writing at some point, but it kind of terrifies me that I might not be able to sink into this book in the way I just did in the last 5 days, which is very normal. It happens to me all the time, but it is a bit scary. I don't really want to let go of this mojo that I've been having. But yeah, this week has been insane, and it's only Wednesday. To think that I have written the most I've written in years in just this last 5 days is kind of wild. I want to talk about music as well in this video. Music is such a big part of my process lately. I'm not really one of those people who can really determine whether or not I write with or without music. I think when I was younger, I would always write with music, and that was my answer. Every single time I wrote, I would be writing with music. Thinking back, I think I've kind of flip-flopped on whether or not I write with music or not. I don't really have much of an answer. It's really dependent on many circumstances. Right now is the time of the coronavirus pandemic. So I live with 6 other people and 1 dog who always is barking. I don't live in a small household. I share a room with my sister. So sometimes she might be doing something, or I usually write in the kitchen. I only hang out in this room to film videos and to sleep, but I'm usually in the kitchen, and so that's a central spot. It's on the main floor, so it can get loud. My parents work during the day from home, so that can get loud. and so do my brothers, and so I kind of need like a sound space to put myself in. I've found that recently I really do need a sound space, because I cannot focus if there's just silence. Lately, I have been listening to a few songs that have been quite integral. A few Jeff Buckley songs I really like. I got into Jeff Buckley through Nothing But Thieves. So for this book in particular, I think I originally began listening out to the original Lover You Should Have Come Over and Lilac Wine, and those songs are masterpieces. They're beautiful. Recently, in the last few days, when I was writing outside, I just listened to the entire album. I'm kind of very picky with my music. I don't listen to music. Like, I don't just find a song and like add it to a playlist. Like, I need to get to know the song. I need to have an emotional attachment to something. And so I was listening to the album because I've been listening to Lover You Should Have Come Over and Lilac Wine for a few months now. Particular songs that have been inspiring the last few chapters. The first one is Corpus Christi Carol. Today I wrote essentially the climax of Lonan's part while listening to Mojo Pin, which was awesome. And then today I also started listening to his, I guess it's a very
famous cover of Hallelujah. I grew up listening to, as probably a lot of people in the early 2000s, if you were a Shrek baby, listening to Rufus Wainwright's version. And obviously, if you didn't know, I'm going to break your heart. The Rufus Wainwright version isn't in the Shrek movie. It's just on the CD because I don't know if they have the royalties. I don't know, some story. It's a story. But Rufus Wainwright is on the CD. And so I've had the Shrek soundtrack CD because, I was a Shrek baby. I have it on my iTunes library, and so I listened to the Rufus Wainwright one 20 times in a row while I was writing. Then I was like, oh yeah, Jeff Buckley has, on the same album, has a version of this, so I listened to Jeff Buckley's version. They're completely different vibes. The Rufus Wainwright one was perfect for this really intense sort of scene that had Samson and Delilah vibes that I wrote in chapter 4. And then the Jeff Buckley version is perfect for the aftermath of that, which is sort of like quiet, the emotional arc. I've also been obviously listening to a lot of Nothing But Thieves. If you didn't know, that's my favorite band. And so as much as I didn't shut up about Hannibal in this vlog, I don't shut up about Nothing But Thieves. 2 songs, I think, really important. Maybe 3. I Was Just a Kid is really good. It has a lot of energy, but the number one is I'm Not Made by Design. Very good. Every single time that song came on and I was writing, like in my shuffle, because I just usually shuffle Nothing But Thieves when I write, if I'm not replaying Hallelujah 20 times. Whenever that song shuffled, I just had to stop and just be like, this is perfect for the moment. It felt perfect every single time. And then Tempt You Eva K Show is also perfect. But I definitely think I'm Not Made by Design is number 1. The last few chapters have really surprised me, but I'm so glad that I took the time to work through my problem, because I was having such a problem with chapters 2 and 3. And so though it was so difficult, I kept going, and I've never been the one to give up on projects. I don't like to give up on projects when they give me a hard time. I love writing, and so even when it gives me a hard time, I never quit. And so I'm glad that I didn't quit at this, because I have learned so much and I feel so calm. I don't usually view my writing as therapy because I can't really write when I'm not mentally doing well, but I genuinely felt some sort of catharsis while writing this, and so I feel like that's the best thing that I can ask for. On a heavier, more sad note, I didn't really like the last scene I wrote. It is a really important scene. Lonan, I guess I can say, because this was never going to be published. Lonan and Eliza, mostly Eliza's driving, and they go to his father's cabin, which is in Mothwork. If you watch the Mothwork All About My Novel video, and it's also in book 6 of Rewired for some of you who caught the older vlogs. But in this book, they go to the cabin because this woman that Lonan meets named Anya, I don't know if I've mentioned her on here, but he meets her in chapter 2 because Eliza sets him up to paint her kitchen wall, even though she didn't tell him he was doing that, just because she wants to kind of distract him from other things that he wants to do. The construction is back, so we're back to screaming very close at each other. Just trigger warning, I'm gonna discuss suicide, and so yeah, that's just a warning. But in chapter 4, at the very beginning, Anya attempts suicide by jumping off of her balcony, and Lonan believes it's his fault, because in a way he feels he let Anya down, because at the end of chapter 2 he was supposed to go to her for dinner because her husband is dead, but she's really having a hard time grieving, and she has a son, and she's really having a hard time wrapping her head around what she's going to do and how she's going to be the best mother that she can be. She's kind of unhinged from the very beginning, essentially. You don't really see it because she's very sweet, but she's clearly not doing very well, and so he believes that because he didn't show up to dinner, and in a lot of ways it's confirmed by what he eventually finds at Anya's apartment after this happens. He believes that it's his fault that she attempts to commit suicide, and she doesn't succeed, but she's obviously forever altered physically and mentally, and so she can't care for her son in the way that she wanted to. And so I think Lonan really struggles with that, especially because of her child. Logically, it's not his fault. There's literally nothing that he did. He had only known her for a few hours, and nothing that he did caused this, but he feels he is the cause, and there's some evidence that he is the cause. He's not, but essentially he might be the straw that broke the camel's back. Or at least he feels he is. And so they go to the cabin. Eliza takes him to his father's cabin because she wants to get his mind away from all of it. And at this cabin, bad things happen. The worst parts of the relationship are basically unveiled at this cabin. It's not a healthy relationship. It hasn't been for so long. There's a power dynamic on both sides. They are both very toxic for each other, and also the ethics of the relationship. She is his dad's ex-girlfriend, and so there's a lot of stuff that's entwined. He finds out a lot of things that cause a lot of disturbance, and she cuts his hair off. Like there's a whole thing. And so the last scene with Eliza in it is them driving. And again, if you are sensitive to like mentions of attempted suicide, this would be one of them. She drives them into the lake, and I've had that idea for a long time, but I don't love the way I executed it. It's mostly the way I feel. It's probably written fine. It's just like I was hoping I would love it more when I wrote it. But I didn't really love it because it's just been in my brain for too long, I think, because I've been mulling it for so long. It's not as fantastic as I thought it was going to be. He gets out of there unscathed. We don't really know what happens to Eliza. And we probably won't know what happens to Eliza. His point of view is essentially going to end right now. I just need one more scene in his head. And obviously this is very heavy stuff. And so we're going to jump into Harrison's point of view while Lonan tries to sort of piece together all of these fallen pieces and tries to figure out, you know, his role in these things he feels he didn't do, but are also sort of his responsibility. That's what's been going on with feeding habits. I'm going to go finish his point of view, and I will update you guys later. Hi guys, so it's been a few days since I last updated, and I thought I would do a closing update for this video. I'm wearing a hat because my hair looks really funny right now, but it's really hot in here. I had a really excellent writing week. I was not expecting to write nearly as much as I did, but I wrote about 10,000 words this week. Over 10,000 words. I was at 15,000 words on Saturday, and then this following Saturday I was at 25,000 words. I finished Lonan's point of view, and I really miss him. I'm making this update because I miss him, and I think it's a little bit, I don't know, to me, to some people it might seem a bit funny. Some people don't treat their characters like they're very close to them, and that's fine. Some people, whatever you do is fine. I am really close to my characters, but in particular, I've talked about this in this video already, I'm very close to Lonan and I miss him a lot. Now I'm in Harrison's head, and right after I finished Lonan's point of view, I kind of tanked on my performance. I was writing at least 1,000 words a day. It was actually more like 2,000 words a day for a while there. And I hit Harrison's point of view, and I really tanked on that, which is it's not fair to Harrison because I love him and I love his point of view too. I just think I was so used to writing in Lonan's head. I'd been writing in it for a while. About 2 months I've been writing this book since April, and it was really his book, and so I really miss him now that it's kind of over. I don't know if I will go back to his point of view. I might. I'm pretty sure I will, because I think this book is going to be a bit longer than Mothwork. Maybe it'll be the same length, but we're already at the halfway point of my goal, which is 50,000 words. Mothwork was just about 50k, which is what I had prospected. But yeah, I have really been missing him. I was saying in this video, Lonan is not just a part of my imaginative life. He has been a part of my real life for a while, despite being a fictional character. And that's a complicated thing, but I miss him a lot, so I've been feeling a bit sad boy the last few days. I felt so close to him in those last few chapters. To psychologically feel as if I was in his head fully, having the privilege of going through how his brain works and more of his memories and getting to know him was like a really fun thing. And I felt really privileged to be in that position because, like I said, he has had an impact on me in my real life, so that really felt nice. And, I've been trying to tell myself, I was like, I could go back. I could write more in his point of view, because originally I hadn't decided to actually cut off his point of view where I cut it off. It just ended up making the most sense, so I could go back and follow my original plan, but I know I don't want to do that. I really do want to take some time and be in Harrison's head. It's important. Taking the break is important. I know if I went back into his head, the book wouldn't be what I want it to be. I just have to kind of get over myself. But I'm a little sad, so I'm gonna mourn first. I miss him. He's not dead. I'm just not writing with him anymore. And I don't know. I felt like we were on to something. We were getting to something. We were talking to each other for a bit, and so that was really nice. I have been working on a book cover for Feeding Habits the last few days. I will pop up portraits that I've been working on. By the time I upload this video, I've probably finished Harrison. I'm working on Harrison today, and he's been giving me a bit of a headache. I've been using the lovely, lovely Hugh Dancy, who we'll get to as a reference, because Hugh Dancy is my face claim for Harrison. Harrison has been all over the place with face claims, and when I was rewatching Ella Enchanted, I was like, oh, he kind of looks like Harrison. You know how you can't, like, make up faces, and you probably take features from, like, real people? That's what I've heard. Maybe when I was young and I watched Ella Enchanted for the first time, that's where Harrison's face came from. Hugh Dancy acts in Hannibal, if you don't know, and this was the Hannibal vlog. It's a writing vlog, but all I do is talk about Hannibal. Sarah and I finished Hannibal today, the whole show, and so I'm feeling even sadder because Hannibal made me feel this crazy show about murder and cannibalism made me feel wonderful. And now I'm sad because it's over. But anyway, I've been working on those portraits, and so I'm using a reference from Hannibal of Hugh Dancy playing Will Graham. It's been a little bit difficult to grasp, which is frustrating because I'm like, your point of view is giving me a hard time, and your portrait is giving me a hard time. And Lona and Eliza are going to be on the front cover because I was taking a lot of inspiration from some Bates Motel promotional pictures with Norma and Norman, where they're kind of like inconceivably close. Like you think it's just a bit uncomfortable. And so I'm trying to go for that vibe on the front cover. It's not really going to be the same because it's just their portraits, but I like the idea of having Lona and Eliza on the front cover, and so that's what I have chosen to do, and I'm pretty happy with the portraits of them. Harrison is giving me a hard time. Also, I feel bad. Maybe he's just cursing me because I keep putting him on the back cover. On Mothwork is a dual-sided cover almost, like the back is just as important as the front, I guess, because Harrison's on the back. Mothwork is Harrison's novel. I see Mothwork as Harrison's story and Feeding Habits as Lonan's story. I put Lonan on the front cover of Mothwork because at the time, I don't pick favorites. I'm a good mother. At the time, I felt closer to Lonan because I was writing in his point of view. And also, I think the composition just worked out a little bit better. And also, the truth is, because I was feeling closer to him, and sorry, I shunned my boy to the back cover. So for those of you who don't know, I made this dust jacket for a class, a university class I was in, as a final project. It wasn't supposed, it could be anything creative that I wanted to do. So I was like, might as well make something for myself. I will link the video where I make this book cover. Lonan is on the front, and it says Mothwork, and my name. It's a wrap cover, and then Harrison's on the back. And then it's this like cool spread. So I think he's cursing me because I keep putting Lonan on the front. This time around, I was like, I wish I could give you the front, but this book is so genuinely Lonan's book that I have to put him on the front. I'm sorry. Oh well, I will definitely be making another dust jacket. So yeah, right now I'm working on the portraits of the three of them, which are like, they are basically the only three characters in Mothwork. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I have an All About My Novel talking about this book. But yeah, this is not published. I'm not going to publish it. I'm going to make a video on why I'm not publishing my books ever, at least the fostered ones. But that means I can share a lot with you guys on here, which is why I really actually enjoy not having to publish anything. But because Lonan got the front, he's going to get the front again. I'm sorry, I feel bad. So Harrison is probably just mad at me because I keep shoving him to the back. So in all fairness, I probably deserve it. But yeah, it's not that his point of view is grueling. Like, it's not so difficult that I can't do it. It's not hard. It's just, I was in a really good spot with Lonan. Like, I really understood his psychology. I was talking to you. I figured out his greatest fear and, like, the darkest part about him. I figured it out. After so many years of writing with him, I've literally been writing with him since I was 13, and I'm turning 19 in September, and so it's been a long time, and so to figure out, like, his true fears, his desires, the fact that he wants children, like, how did I not know these things? We were in a really good spot, and I was just so comfortable in writing in his head, and I've always been really comfortable in writing in this sort of, which is kind of funny, because I never thought I would be comfortable writing in his head. The reason why I steer clear of him, the reason why I wrote in Harrison's point of view to begin with, because Mothwork wasn't supposed to have Lonan's point of view ever. It was because I never wanted to write in Lonan's head. I thought it was going to be weird, but then I didn't, and I loved it, and I continue to love it, and I miss him. And even though it gave me a hard time, I'm not gonna lie, you know, I'm gonna talk about like genuine disillusionment with writing at some point. Despite having some of those struggles, I adore writing with him. And you know, writing the end with him was not very satisfying in the way that I thought it was going to be. When I finished writing in his point of view in Mothwork, I think he has 7 chapters or so. The last chapter I wrote in his head was very triumphant. To me, it was like a victory. It felt good. It was a good place to stop. This time around, I thought I had to actually write another scene. I mentioned it in another clip. I was going to write the scene where he found this grave, and I didn't end up doing that because I think it just ended better where I ended it. So it was a bit more anticlimactic. I didn't love writing the last scene, which I had planned for a long time, which I talked about. Because I had planned it, it was kind of like eating tough meat, almost. Like I had already prepared it and had just sit out for a long time. So it was not a very wonderful experience. So now that I miss him so much, I feel compelled to feel that amazing experience again. And I know with Harrison it will happen. It's just like Harrison is in a better position. Like he's in a happier position. He's been struggling. But I guess I'm just biased, you know? Him and his mother have been living comfortably somewhat in New York City for the last few months, but he's feeling really lonely. And I think the reason why I'm struggling to write with him is because me and him are feeling the same thing about Lonan. We both miss him. We both are pining for him. We both want to be near him and to understand him. If this is not proof, I cannot write. Some people are like, when I feel upset, I can write, and writing makes me feel better. When I feel upset, I can't write. I struggle so much, and because I'm feeling this right now, I'm like, I should be able to write exactly what Harrison's feeling, because me too. No, I can't do it. It's been really hard, but I am doing something quite fun in this chapter. Because Harrison misses everybody, he has gotten into contact with his old friend Reeve, who, if you were here for like the Rewired days, Reeve is the protagonist of the Fostered series. Mothwork is a spin-off that follows Lonan and Harrison, but Reeve is the OG. She's the queen. I haven't written with her in over a year, like on the page, and I really miss her. He invited her over for dinner, and this is the first time she's been in contact with anybody from her old life, and so she's gonna be in this chapter. I'm looking forward to it, but I just can't get over the fact that I miss Lonan so much. I'm being such a baby about it, but I can't help it. I miss him. This video has been a wild ride. Thanks for being here while I wrote 10,000 words in a week. I haven't done that probably since I was 13. It's absolutely insane that we've been here. We're on a bit of a pure spot with Harrison right now, so trying to get to the darker parts is, to me, what's going to be the most entertaining. There's a quote in Hannibal, and this probably won't spoil anything if you're going to watch this show, but if you really don't want to hear anything, don't hear anything. Hannibal says this quote, and it's, "Save yourself, kill them all." That's how I feel. I like to write the darker parts. I like to write the grittier parts. Writing the less gritty parts, or seemingly less gritty, Harrison is still struggling, but not getting to the core of the grit is really hard for me. So I'm gonna try to unveil the grit. AKA, what I'm trying to say is I love ruining my characters' lives, and if I'm not doing that, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to be writing if I'm not ruining somebody's life. So I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna go ruin Harrison's nice, stable life in New York City by bringing Reeve in, because she is a chaos maker. But thanks for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I haven't vlogged in a while, so it was wonderful to film this for you guys. But thanks for hearing me ramble and pine for fictional characters who don't actually exist. I will see you in another video. Thank you guys for watching this. Bye.